you look out on the world, and I know you're on top of everything that's happening as far as international affairs go, and when in your quieter moments, when you sit and not being barraged with all the garbage media that we have to swim through, in those quiet moments when you have time to reflect, what's getting you gripe? What's on your mind?
Look, I think at the moment what's really catching my attention is obviously how the world's reacting to a couple of countries who are pursuing a nuclear weapons program, i.e. that of Iran and North Korea.
Axis of evil.
Yeah, very much so. George Bush's axis of evil. But everyone seems to be quaking in their boots at the thought of Iran, being a country with nuclear capabilities.
Crazy, arrogant.
And obviously North Korea have undertaken some testing and look to be have already the capabilities there. But
they'll bomb Japan.
What I find difficult to understand is the world's lack of concern that Israel has an undeclared or undisclosed nuclear capability. And I can't understand why there isn't more pressure put to bear on Israel to come out and admit, one, that they have a nuclear program, that they have nuclear weapons, and two, that there's not more pressure on them to disarm. I mean, I think Israel's really shown their hand in the fact that they are a country that is prepared to strike first and ask questions later. They were the aggressor. They launched a preemptive attack on their neighbours, during the Six-Day War. They've bombed Iraq in the past to destroy a potential nuclear facility there, and they seem to be itching at the moment to have another crack at Iran by taking out their nuclear facilities. So I don't think there's anything good necessarily by Iran developing nuclear weapons. I don't think that can necessarily help us or make the world a better place, but I just, for the life of me, cannot understand why it's okay for Israel to have nuclear weapons that they know they will not disclose, and I think everyone knows, that they have them. But there's no pressure on them to disclose it or to disclose how many nuclear weapons they have, or to go any way, shape or form to reducing their arsenal. So as soon as when people start bleeding on about Iran having nuclear weapons, I just sort of zone out, because I think it's just such a double standard. But look, that's the way of the world. There seems to be certainly a number of double standards that apply to Israel. I think we always talk about the Cuban Missile Crisis is the closest that we've come to a nuclear war. Yeah. But there's
the Russians funding some small states.
Yeah. And the Americans got a bit uppity about the fact that there was going to be a nuclear weapon a couple of miles from their coast.
Yeah.
Don't irrespective of the fact that the Americans had nuclear weapons all around Europe, pointing straight into Russia. Let's avoid that and not get into that. But I think what's not talked about is how close they actually came, or Israel actually came, to using nuclear weapons during the 1973 Yom Kippur War. I mean, there's enough evidence to suggest there that when Israel were first attacked during that war, and they were right on the back foot, it was a surprise attack by Egypt and Syria, that there's certainly discussions, and the thought process was put in place that they would have to use their nuclear arsenal. And I think there's enough evidence to show that they were getting ready to use those. And if it wasn't for the fact that the US did a massive airlift of resupplying Israel, and also there was some failures of the Egyptian forces in the fact that they stopped their advance in the Sinai and they allowed Israel to regroup, and they were able to use their conventional weapons and eventually save the day. But I think we came very close there in 1973 to Israel launching a retaliation using their nuclear capabilities against Egypt and Syria. And look, we would be in a very different place, I think, in a very different world if that had have happened.